With the new M600, Piper Aircraft has responded to customers' requests for more range and performance from the single-engine turboprop Meridian M500. Priced at $2.853 million, the M600 can fly 1,484 nautical miles, up from the M500's 1,000 nautical miles. To tell the M500 and M600 apart, look for the M600's upturned winglets. The biggest improvement is the Garmin G3000 integrated flight deck, a big step up from the G1000 and the G500. I much prefer the G3000 and its 2 touchscreen controllers. The M600 also adds an emergency descent mode, which, while flying above 14,900 feet, monitors pilot response to message prompts to detect whether the pilot is affected by hypoxia. And if the pilot doesn't respond properly within a certain time, the mode is engaged and the M600 will descend automatically. I flew the M600 with Piper Chief Test Pilot Bart Jones from Wisconsin's Appleton International Airport. It was a somewhat short jaunt because of a slow-moving thunderstorm near the airport, but we were able to climb to 16,000 feet and evaluate performance and handling characteristics. With just the two of us on board and about 1,100 pounds of fuel, the M600 weighed just over 5,000 pounds, a typical load for that airplane and about the same amount of fuel that the M500 can carry. We could fly a 600 nautical mile trip at normal cruise of 257 knots at 20,000 feet and land with a healthy 300-pound hour-plus reserve. The temperature was nearly ISA plus 10 degrees centigrade, and after I pushed the throttle to near maximum torque and lifted off from runway 30 below 90 knots, we climbed into the air rapidly using less than 2,000 feet of runway. I lowered the nose after cleaning up the gear and flaps and accelerated to 140 knots instead of the 122 knot best rate of climb speed. The M600 climbed at 1,700 to 1,900 feet per minute, then up to 2,500 feet per minute as we gained altitude. Turning to the east to avoid the looming thunderstorm, I climbed directly to 16,000 feet, which took about 10 minutes, almost 2 minutes less than the number in the manual, and I wasn't even flying at the recommended climb speed. At that altitude and ISA plus 7, we had a choice between maximum cruise of 250 knots and fuel flow 358 pounds per hour, or an intermediate cruise at the next lower setting of 241 knots and 332 pounds per hour. Piper recommends flying at max cruise, and it's easy to see why. The slower speed doesn't save much fuel for a slightly slower cruise speed. We didn't have too much time to work with because of the thunderstorms, but I managed to squeeze in some slow flight and handling evaluation. The M600 is a solid, stable platform with 0 surprises. Descending from 16,000 feet, Jones had me keep the power up and I let the airspeed climb to the 251 knot VMO so I could see how the electronic stability protection raises the nose to keep the speed within limitations, which it did, conveniently, as we were passing through 10,000 feet and had to slow down anyway. I continued descending and headed back toward Appleton, where I lined up for a base leg to runway 3. The thunderstorm was getting closer, but we could see that it was still well away from the airport on the M600's Garmin GWX-70 digital radar. What I like about Pipers in general, and the M600 in particular, is that they never make me feel like I'm in a hurry, and there is plenty of time to manage all the tasks involved with flying single pilot. The G3000 avionics do make this easier, but the M600 is easy to slow down when needed, or can be flown at higher speeds until close to the airport, then slowed down promptly, making it a highly flexible airplane. Gear speed is 170 knots, and once down, the M600 doesn't take long to slow to 147 knots for the first notch of flaps. Slowing down below 112 knots, I set full flaps and turned final and slowed to below 100, then 85 crossing the threshold. Throughout the speed regime, the M600 handled perfectly and remained stably at the desired altitude. The landing was perfectly smooth, and we slowed down quickly enough to take the first turnoff less than a quarter way down the 8,000-foot runway.